All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Awake TV. This is Krista Alicia, host of Intentionality, Unraveling the Secrets of the Universe. And I'm here today with a beautiful, beautiful guest, Letina Russell from Melbourne, Australia. She is also a teacher on Awake TV. She teaches Whales of Lemuria and Unity Codes. I found Letina while I was looking for information on Lemuria, which is very, very near and dear to my heart, and a place that I have felt connected to since before I even knew what it was. And Letina hosts a Lemurian circle for the sisterhood in Melbourne, and I found her website and immediately felt connected to her. So after the last couple weeks of intense information, I wanted to bring Letina in so she could bring back that balance of the divine masculine, divine feminine, and explain some of the reasons that we're here on Earth at this time and our divine purpose here. So Letina, thank you so much for joining me today. As always, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, Chris, so much. I'm thrilled that you asked me to be here, and I'm just really looking forward to this unfolding, as I know it will be very, very special, and looking forward to see what we can bring through together for the benefit of all the viewers of your show and the Awake TV network who are going to be joining us. Whenever they come across this information, it will certainly be the right time for them to hear it and see it.
Yes, that is such an important part that you hear in spiritual worlds, is that when you hear the information, it is the right time. It's always the divine timing. And I heard, I was listening to some podcast this morning, and they talked about the ascended life, where we are now, is learning to flow with life and really enjoy the synchronicities. Just let things come to you. Stop fighting for them all the time and just flow in them. And that has definitely been my experience with Awake TV, and a very hard lesson for me to learn.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's that Western mentality. We have to control everything.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And it's a difficult lesson for all of us to learn. But the thing is, I think that once you realize that it's something for you to learn, then that is the biggest learning, really. And then it's just practicing, isn't it?
Yes. And really getting out of your body. And that's been out of your body and out of your mind. That's been the last 2 weeks have really been, how do you crush the ego? How do you let go of old pain and old trauma? And these sound so simple, but these are lifetimes that you can spend learning these lessons. And that's one thing that that really attracted to me to Lemuria. It was like before these dark ages where we really forgot our connection and we started living in these bodies as if this was all that we had. So for the people that don't know anything about Lemuria, would you mind giving them a little background on what it was?
Sure. So now for people, Lemuria is a concept. Lemuria is, for a lot of people, a state of mind, really. But thousands of years ago, it was a place. And it is now what we know as the islands of Hawaii. So when Lemuria was above the water, and all the islands were above the water, they say it was a continent in itself. And the island of a big island now in Hawaii was the highest mountain peak on the world, taller than Everest, and it still is the largest mountain peak, but much of it is submerged. Now, the reason why it pushed up so high was because it was sitting on a bubble of magma. This is what they say. It was on a bubble of magma, and of course that could never stay as a bubble. It was going to have to subside. Geographically, it just couldn't stay like that. So when it did subside, over the time that it took to sink, it sunk, and the Lemurian people left the island. Some of them stayed. They say that a large population of Lemurian people stayed, and the largest population, I believe, was on the island of Kauai, now the island of Kauai. But certainly there were people, it was a continent, and they were all over. Now, what we know is that they dispersed. They had time to leave, and certainly putting together the information that I've heard and the information that I've received myself, my guidance in channel, is that they dispersed to many different locations. They dispersed to the shores of California, Australia, New Zealand, Rapa Nui, Easter Island, in the islands of French Polynesia as well. And there are many other places. Even Canada, they were saying, is even partly connected to part of the continent when it was a continent. So, and then of course there are the star mothers, the Pleiadians, who actually chose Lemuria because they chose 12 different places to seed humanity, and Lemuria was one of them. So those star mothers, they stayed, or they took on a non-3D form and they stayed. So I think that scientists are now starting to find really, really old existence of civilizations well before ours, even 3 times before ours. So slowly but surely they'll piece together relics, but in Lemuria, a lot of it was submerged, and they also had the ice on the top of the mountain with the lava from the volcano. So it was a very, very unusual climate there. And because of the knowledge that they were imbued with from the Pleiadians, they knew how to use that ice at the top of the mountain with the lava and how to make it work for them to extend their lives and to make oxygen where there wasn't any in the high mountains, and rejuvenate themselves. So that was what we know was the island of Lemuria. So today we are talking about that, but it's not about what the island was so much as what we did when we were there. And we know that the Lemurian Sisterhood, which wasn't called Sisterhood then, but the Sisterhood was because the women of Lemuria were the spiritual caretakers of their civilization. So they were the ones who they carried the seeds of the divinity of the Pleiadians. So they carried and they passed on those seeds. And women naturally are the more intuitive of the sexes. It just is that we are actually built that way. Our brains are wired a little bit differently. And that's why, our intuition, we're wired so that we can know that our babies are going to cry before they even cry. They know, we just know, it's a women's intuition. It's not just a concept. It is a real thing. So we're naturally the more intuitive of the sexes. Now, the men in Lemuria had their role, and the women in Lemuria had their role, and the balance was fine. The balance was balanced for a long, long time. They knew what we did, and they needed us to do that, because it wasn't just that we were able to steer by the stars. We looked after the families. We were the medicine women. We were the shaman. We were the teachers, the priestesses. We were the midwives. We looked after the spiritual. We just took care of that side of things, and the men needed it. And the men took care of other things, and we needed that. So there was the balance there, and they knew what we did. And more to the point, we knew what we did. And that's where I think today we are so much seeking, because we have forgotten what we did and who we were. And even the men, the men have forgotten what they did and who they were and the value that they brought. So while we speak about the women of Lemuria, of course, there's a balance there with the men who are in balance with their sacred masculine and honouring the divine feminine. And that's what this is about, is bringing back around the balance. So never at any point must this be misconstrued as anti-men or that men don't have their place. They absolutely do. But it's the women of Lemuria that we are bringing out the Lemurian souls. And now with the rebirthing and the awakening of these Lemurian souls, women are remembering the gifts they had and what we did then. And they'll find that it mirrors in today's in their life today. In 2020, in this world, there is a mirroring, and that's something I know that you would like to speak more about.
All that you're saying is it's so in line with everything that we've been talking about in this show and other shows. It's that masculine energy that we've had for so long, for the last several thousand years. It's been a very masculine energy, which is action oriented, it's fire oriented, it's about quick change and less subtleties. And we're moving into the feminine energy, which is nurturing and soft, still equally powerful. And the point of it is to find balance. You know, we've been unbalanced for so long, and we look outside of ourselves and see this lack and this duality. And we're finally getting the chance to really go inside and expand and ascend at such a rapid rate. It's wonderful to hear you saying these things, because this is the focus of my life for sure, and this is what I like to teach others as well. How do you bring that balance back into your life and really embrace who and what you are? Just beautiful.
Yeah, that's right. And that's what it's all about. It's seeking balance, and we're always seeking balance. And if we can find that within ourselves, then, you know, even now when we're having this beautiful conversation and we are in this together, there is the balance, you know, happening between us. And when we are honoring that in each other, and everybody who's watching, be it male or female, we're honoring the sacred masculine and the divine feminine. And when we see that in another, and another sees it in ourselves, and when we see that in another, we also are honoring that within ourselves. And then we are in the one space, and we are bringing out about just a little bit of peace on earth, because it does begin within. Something I always talk about on my shows, on the Awake TV network, so whether it's in Awaken the Lemurian Within or now the Language of Lemurian Unity, I always say, because it never lessens, the impact is never less, when, you know, the amount of times I say it, that we are here now in a female body. And you'll know most of the teachers on the Awake TV network are female, probably more than 90% of them, I'd say, maybe even 95% of them. And there are most of the spiritual teachers or the ladies or people that are emerging now, there's definitely more women than men. Now, that's not wrong or right. It's just how it is. And it's, you know, it's meant to be that way right now. So we have been born into a female body. And if we had have tried to design that to be born in this time on Earth when Gaia is ascending, so Gaia's moving through her ascension process, and with each one of us, we are moving through our ascension process, and we are awakening to truths within us that have been just kept down under the surface, and even way further down than that. So it's been designed so that it's been designed that way. So the chances that we are a woman, awakening women in an awakening time, it's very slim that it would have happened by chance. So what the teaching says is that actually Cryon teaches this work, the beautiful messages of Cryon, which is love and benevolence for humanity as an evolving race. And he speaks of that women, we would have probably had 8 to 10 lives as a woman to be born now as a woman. And then men who are born now would have had, 8 to 10 lives as a man to be born a man again. And the time in between that when we switch genders is a difficult time. And often that's when people are either coming out as gay, lesbian, with gender differences, or any kind of those people whose gender is not completely male or female, or who they just might have be very, very female, but they're female, but they present as more masculine person, or they might be a male who presents very, very female. So they say that this happens when we're switching genders. And at any one time, there's about 10% of people who are embodying that experience. And then, so now for us to be born as a woman, though, who have healing gifts and talents, there is a real reason for that. And that is because we are feeding this energy back into Gaia as she's ascending. So, we're connected all over the world. And the goddess grid is a real thing. There are women who have been, and the other part of this story is that if you're an awakening woman now who resonate with the information from Lemuria, then you were there. There's no doubt about it, you were there. Now, we might not have all been there together. I doubt that we were there at the same time. But you were there and holding space for the sisterhood.
Yes, absolutely. And came back at this time to bring that energy back to the planet.
That's right. And something really beautiful that with the work that I do with the whales is that I'll just go back a step and explain a little bit of my story, if that's okay.
Please.
Very briefly. So I've been called by the whales and the dolphins since I was a child, really strong through my teenage years, and then into my adulthood. It never, ever stopped. And of course, I remember it from my teenage, kind of late teens, early adult until now, because my memory sort of stretched that far easily. And they would always be in my dreams. And then I would go places. Look, this is real life. I'd be places where I would put myself in a situation where there were whales, not intending that. And from my conscious brain, I didn't know that. And when there were dolphins, again, not intending to see them, but always having them there. Now, that happened again in 2017. And this time I really awakened. And because it was divine right timing. I'd been through what I needed to go through. I was ready to take that step and say yes to them. And when I did, the unfolding was really, really powerful. And so what I work with the whales around is the awakening and the rebirthing of Lemurian souls. And what they have said to me, and this is only in the past few months really, is that the recognition has come that they've called me in this life, and I've answered. And I worked with them in Lemuria. So I worked with them in Lemuria when we all had different jobs to do. We all had different roles. And what I did was helped with the birthing. And part of what I did was call around the whales and the dolphins. And the whales were there and they held space in the crystalline waters. And they recorded every Lemurian birth. Now, I called them and they came and they recorded those births. And it's those same women, those same teachers, the same priestess and shaman that are now being reborn with the help of the whales. So if you are an awakening woman and the Lemurian information resonates with you, then it's, this is part of your awakening journey. You were definitely there, and your Lemurian soul is just waking up again now.
That's beautiful. And I've read about this, the affinity of whales and dolphins to pregnant women, and it was a completely outside of a spiritual magazine where I read this. They're talking about pregnant women going into the waters to give birth, and that dolphins and whales will come to them today.
Yeah.
And that is it really helps you appreciate that there are ascended beings already on this planet helping us. And the whales and the dolphins are very much, like you said, holding space and being there to witness our journey and our ascension. And
That's right.
we completely take that for granted. We have an awe of them, but I don't think it's so hard for us to understand just what it is that they're doing for us.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. And you bring up a really good point, because we do take them for granted. I mean, even to the point where, because we were so in the dark about what they did and what they do for us, we would kill them. And not just for food. And, there's a reason why people all over the world, even in the landlocked countries, they love the whales and the dolphins. From my knowledge and the information that I've been given and that I've seen in my own meditation in my mind's eye, is that the whales were created from Sirius. And the whales were here for us on Earth before we became an awakened species, and now we are more awakening, but we've got the potential to wake up now. And this is after the seeding of Lemuria by the Pleiades. So the star mothers came to Lemuria. That's one of the points they came to Earth. And that was one of the places that they started to seed humanity with the divine spark of the Creator. And then we had the ability to understand that we were part of that, and we had the ability to understand that we weren't separate from creation, that we were part of that, and we had that divine spark within us as well, so that we could create. We were powerful creators, and that's the information that we always knew then, but it's the information that we are now coming back into the knowledge of. But when they seeded humanity, it's my understanding that they also changed the DNA of the whales and the dolphins. Now, the whales, they are like a time capsule. They're like a record keeper of our planet. So they know our individual journeys, and they know what path the Earth is taking, and when we ascend as individuals, which is why it's so important that we do what our heart is calling us to do, because if we're listening to our heart, we are doing our purpose work, right? So it's only when we're in our pain that we're not fulfilling our purpose. So when we're listening to our heart and doing our purpose work, we are feeding those ascension energies back into the crystalline grid of Gaia. Now, the whales are the living portion of the crystalline grid. So they know when numbers of us are ascending, the plan for the Earth has changed. We reached that really important marker of 2012 when the ancients prophesied that there would be an ending. And the ending was that it was the ending of an unconscious human. And it was the beginning of us regaining our knowledge of who we were and what we could do, and together with Gaia, the path that we were taking. So the whales know this, and so they are born to hold that information. They were put here to help us, and that's why we have such an affinity with them.
Have you noticed, because you swim with the whales and do ceremonies with the whales, have you noticed a change in their behavior over the last couple of years? Are they becoming more integrated with humans?
I think they absolutely are becoming more integrated with humans, but there's the intention of the human as well who goes to be with them. So certainly from my experience, we've had the most incredible experiences with the whales, and through the way that I have designed my retreats with the whales is not actually being designed by me. I just answered the call, and they said, and largely they're for ladies. They're definitely, on all my retreats, they've always been women. And there's one man now just floating around the outskirts, but he hasn't committed yet. And so they're definitely Lemurian Sisterhood Awakening retreats. But they, you know, the right women come together for the right purpose, and the right whales come to help us fulfill that purpose. So they know that the pod of us is coming together. And we set that intention long before we get into the water. So my retreats, for instance, this year are in August and September, and we're already working together to through some of the Lemurian Unity codes, so that when we are with the whales in September, we're well and truly bonded and our mission is really clear. So I do know that they love to interact. And of course we only swim with the ones who really want to interact, because you wouldn't put yourself with the whales who don't want that, because they're tail slapping and breaching, and they're saying very clearly, like, I'm busy over here, you know, so you would never bother them. You wouldn't get too close in a boat, let alone get in the water and swim with them. So, you know, to be clear about that, we wait to be invited in by the whales, and they are the right whales who are ready for us to join them. And you just know they come close to the boat, they stick around, they're on the top of the water floating with their babies, and they're, or sometimes not with their babies, and you know very clearly that they're saying, come on in. But when I designed those retreats, though, the whole idea is that all they say is, you bring them to us and we'll do the rest of the work. And so what that is that when you're actually with them, no matter how much work we can do on our awakening journey, and how much letting go, facing fear, trying to put ourselves in our joy, all of those kinds of things that we do, forgiveness, compassion for others, compassion for self, we can only take it so far. And then the feeling that you have once you've been with the whales, and if you've been submerged with them, or, you know, in their energy fields in the water for any period of time, they just kickstart that along, and they just take you to the rest of the way. So they can take you very, very deeply to work that you're not able to sometimes get to yourself. So I think they know, you know, they know the ones who meet them, who are there for awakening and to share energy and exchange healing with the whales certainly know.
A whole nother level of activation.
That's right. That's what it is. It's a whole other level. And one of my mentors, Trish Reagan, beautiful Trish, who has been running retreats with the whales and dolphins for 25 years, she, and I love her so dearly, you know, as a spiritual teacher, she had her own journey to go on as well. And she believes that there's no way she could have made that journey had it not been for the whales and dolphins. She couldn't have done it.
There's such a magic in the world when we stop focusing on our pain and our fear. It's almost like looking up for the first time, and you're seeing this just magical world out there where you're able to have these just incredible ascension experiences with animals, with yourself. It's like time slows down and it becomes an addictive feeling. You still get sucked into daily life every once in a while, but you want to get back to that feeling of how you felt when you were swimming with the whales. It's just amazing.
Yeah, that's right. And it is easy to forget, you know, it's really easy to forget. And we are living in amnesia most of the time. But once you have been with them, and it's easier to carry those energies with you once you've physically been with them. And it's still easy to forget and certainly get busy in everyday life, but it's an amazing, it's a really heart-opening, joyful, joy-igniting and as well as sort of making you feel like you're ascending or expanding, they also take you deeper at the same time, where they say there's no fear to go deep, you know. There's actually, the only fear is that you don't go deep. So they do take you a lot deeper, but only they know when you're ready. And I'll tell you another experience I had with them, which you were asking about before, about do the whales and the interaction of the whales with humans. And I wasn't expecting this. On my last trip to Tahiti, which was last year, one of the Lemurian Unity codes was given to me whilst I had been in the water with the whales. And now I got back on the boat, and we'd been swimming with a singer whale. And these are the whales that sing, those beautiful whale sounds that just travel for hundreds and hundreds of kilometers through the ocean. And this beautiful singer, we were above him for probably minimum of 45 minutes. And his song and the sound was just going through our bodies, and in a way that you just, you don't feel it as much. And you feel it when you're in the water and you hear it, but it's only when you get back onto the boat and then back onto land that you go, oh my God, I can't, what do I do? Like, when I got back on the boat, I just about collapsed. I just had to slump down on the bow of the boat. When I got back onto the island, I just couldn't let myself get out of the water. And actually my husband just towed me around in the shallow water. I was just lying on my back, and he was just towing me around like a child, just dragging me through the water until I was ready to get out. But what happened was I received this code, and it was a really difficult situation, but this was one of the Lemurian Unity codes called Shiel El Il Cantor, and it's beautiful, and it helps you to face the difficult, really difficult discussions and difficult situations. And I received that because I needed to face up to something to move me along, and they knew that I could, but it would be hard. So it was just a real indication to me, and a real what can I say, experience for me to, like, I can say they know us, but to know us on that intimate level, to know what needed to come out at what time on that very day, could not go any further. Like, it was really time for this to be brought out into the open. And so I had to do just that. There was no choice. And I felt like, well, that's not fair. You didn't give me a choice. I can express this to other people with the knowledge that they will, when they're ready. But for me, it just went bang and hit me. And now what? I had to face up. So they knew that I was holding this and ready to release it. And it was my own fear of what might happen.
Right.
And I was just fearing the fear, because nothing bad would really have happened. It was just a discussion about something that I felt really awkward about. So they really do know. And each individual person gets their own relationship with the whale that they've been with. And so that there might only be one or two whales that you get to swim with, but remembering that the consciousness of that, the whale unity heart, is carried by all of them. So they are very, very powerful beings. They are like the highest spiritual master you might ever imagine, even an archangel or an ascended master. It's like being with them. And yeah, so they know their role with humanity, that's for sure.
Well, that story gave me chills. And Spirit is very clearly telling me that I need to know more about this unity code that you just mentioned.
Yes, well, that's really funny. Yeah, absolutely. And I actually have got it drawn out, but it's not here with me. But I'm certainly happy to give it to you, and you can share that with your audience when you feel
that'd be wonderful.
that time is right. So this Lemurian Unity Code, Shiel is the first Lemurian Unity Code that was given, and that was the first one and the most kind of opening and start, not basic, I was going to say basic, but it's absolutely not basic. It's a spiral. And the spiral in many different spiritual systems exists. So this spiral goes from the outside, working from the outside in a clockwise motion, and then into the middle. And when you get into the middle, you hold there, and then you begin to spiral out again, and then from the middle and then out. So if you were to turn this spiral on its side, it would look like a tunnel, the outside of the spiral's there, going into the middle, you know. Do you understand what I mean? And then
like
from the middle,
funnel, like a tornado,
like
almost.
That's right, like a double-ended tornado, with the skinny bit in the middle. Now, that's the Shiel El. Now, what that is the first half of that symbol. That is the spiral. That's like our interdimensional connector. So we would use that spiral and place it over our different chakra points, and that would be our interdimensional connector to connect us with who it is that we are trying to connect with, or star system that we might be connecting with, or whatever energy that we are looking for. That is what we use, the Shiel El. Now, adding on to that, the Il Cantor. The Il Cantor is like a spiral at the top with four lines coming down, with a curve underneath that looks like a smile underneath. And that is the Il Cantor. So that part of it is what gives us the power, the strength to be able to initiate or hold those really difficult discussions. So first of all, you would make sure that your chakra points are open and that you're connected through the Shiel El. And then you'll begin to work with that Il Cantor. So it's delivered through light language. It's delivered energetically, and you would be in once you have it though, and once you're holding that code, you draw on it for strength when you need it. And it helps you to clear stuff away. So it's not going to ever put you in a situation where you're not comfortable. It is really, if you're drawn to that Lemurian Unity Code, it's because there are situations that you need to be able to discuss that perhaps you haven't been able to discuss, or that now you're ready to when you weren't ready to before. So when I talked about it on the Awake TV network, I posted beforehand and I said, you know, user beware sort of thing, with caution, because while I know that it's not going to be putting anyone in any dangerous situation, some people just might not be ready to have those discussions.
Right.
And so if you're not ready, it can just be a very, very more uncomfortable situation than what it needs to be. But really, when you've done some work and you are acknowledging these things within yourself, and you know that there is things that just need to be gently released and let go of, that's what this is for. That's what and we can't move forward and we can't ascend or expand without letting that go. And the piece of this that they gave to me afterwards was, you need to own up to every single piece of your, you have to take ownership of everything in that given situation. And for you to be able to own up and say, that is mine, I take responsibility for that. And when you own up and take responsibility and you can voice that in a loving, compassionate way for all parties involved, you can drop that and you can move on.
Absolutely.
And that's what this is about. It's about bubbling up to the surface so we can release what is trapped and hold more light in its place.
And Spirit has given me this image of someone who's trying to sprint forward, but they have ties holding them back to the wall. So it doesn't matter how much force you put into your run, how hard you try, if you have these emotions, this pain holding you like physical ties to a wall, you physically cannot go farther. You have to cut
Right.
those away.
Yeah, that's right. And I think we believe, and certainly there is some kind of trauma that we're all holding on to, you know, that we've been
Absolutely.
holding, all of us. We've all been there, and we have many, many past lives that are full. Our Akash is full of lives that when we tried to speak out about what we knew or how we felt, it didn't end well for us.
Right.
But we, you know, that's not what we're bringing through in this life. What we are here for now is to say, yep, we can certainly acknowledge that, but it doesn't do us any good to living in that. And that's a lot of the reason why many of us struggle with low self-worth and low self-confidence, and have trouble stepping out as a healer, because we think, well, even though I have this beautiful information and this knowledge that no one else has, because I am my very own person, as you are your very own person. So each person might know Reiki, just say, but everybody brings their own blend of very special and unique gifts and talents to their healing modality to make it very, very special and uniquely theirs. So you have every right to speak out as a healer, and every right to stand up as a woman who is awakening into her intuition and saying, I know this because my heart tells me it's true. You know, I am being led by my heart, not my brain. I can't explain to you why I feel this. I just know that it's so strong, it must be right for me. And that's, you know, when we can stand up and know that we can softly and gently be in our power and drop those things that doesn't have to be associated with trauma anymore. You know, we can let those things go when we're ready to gently let them go and step forward and emerge. And there's help, you know, there's help to do that.
A very divine timing just to hear that message. That's something I suffer from, or suffer's the wrong word. That's a life lesson of mine, is that unworthiness, you know, that stepping out in the spiritual world is scary. What makes my information any different or worthy to the world? So it is a very, that's one of the synchronicities, spirit speaking through you and providing that message, not just to the people watching, but to me as well. So we do bring something different. We have a different frequency, just like every whale has a different frequency. And it's your truth to share. We're here to share it.
Yep, that's
so
exactly right.
I think that hard discussion I need to have through that Shell El Cantor, is that what it was?
Yeah, Il Cantor, yeah.
El Cantor. I think that's got to be with myself. I think that's got to be that hard discussion. So how would you recommend using that mantra? Is it as a mantra?
It is a mantra. So I'm understanding that you're watching the time. So you let me know how much time we've got left.
We're doing good.
Okay, good. So if you like, I can we can go in together and make it and make a conscious decision for you, if that will be okay.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, and then for anybody watching. So why don't we go ahead and take some deep breaths together? Just first of all, we'll we're in our heart space already. Let's just go and move into a little bit of a softer space and take some deep breaths into our heart space and where we know that to be. And knowing that this is divine right timing for you, Chris, and for anybody else choosing to watch, and anyone who comes after the fact, this beautiful Lemurian code, this language of Lemurian unity, has been given because it is time. It is time. We are the keeper of these codes until the time is right for the people on earth to walk and hold them. And understanding that when we hold these codes, we are not just allowing our Lemurian self to awaken, we are awakening the divine Pleiadian aspects within, for we are of the stars. So we are also awakening our Pleiadian self and allowing our Pleiadian love light to shine. And through holding these codes, we are holding a beautiful light that shines differently to another. This is the Lemurian unity codes, the language of Lemurian unity. Iranai se di karamanaka se da shoramanai. Hailele neni se di onomunakata se de borono aye. So I step back gently. I am in channel, but I'm also conscious. And as our Pleiadian star mothers are stepping through and they're blessing this space, that's what this first language is about, a blessing. Barakitsai, Yoramanai e Kaine, Lilo Ramanasira, Sailor Monarchides, Yoranaya, Mishoda Sik, the Dabai Yoranai, Ye the Sioranai e Pedasai, Kolanai, Mishola Nakaise, Edo no ma ilo no Yoda Saini. So, taking a deep breath now, Chris, and anyone who's joining us. And see that the beautiful Shell El Ilokaranai's Shell El Il spiral is over your crown chakra. Shell El Ilo Side. And Shell El Il is opening up on your crown, allowing the light to filter down over your third eye. Shell El Il Ananai Sede. Shell El Il over down on to your chin. Shell El Il Anaye. And as you're just breathing and knowing that this spiral initiator over your throat chakra now, Shell El Il, Shell El Il, Shell El Il Ananai Sede Sida Monaye, Shell El Il Okaraye. Staying around the throat chakra. There's nothing for you to do, just breathing and let the energy do the work. Shell El Il Ananai. Moving down to your heart, Shell El Il. This is a large spiral on the outside of your heart chakra, encompassing pretty much over your full tummy area and moving into the point of the spiral through the middle of your body and coming out the other side. Shell El Il nene keresire nene. Sheleli Laranai Peter Sola Karadai E Karanayesi Sacral Shell El Ilialanaye and Base Sheleli. Holding out your palms, Shelelil on your knees, Shell Elilanai down your shins and to your feet, Shell El Il. Now take a deep breath and just pop your hand on your heart. And as you take these 3 breaths in, being honest with yourself about where you are, having compassion for self, where you might need to have more compassion for yourself, for your own journey. Take another deep breath and see all those Shell El Il beautiful spiral initiators shining bright silvery blue. Just breathe there and allow that light to grow and expand, becoming brighter with every breath. And the compassion for self is where I'm being guided back to. Because without compassion for self, we aren't able to have these discussions and in a compassionate way with others. So compassion for yourself, for why you are here now, and for what this is that you may never have been able to face before, because it's in divine right timing that we can talk about these things. And it's in divine right timing that these things coming up now to be cleared, and we need some assistance with, because we can't always do it on our own. And just know that you have done the very best. Your human has done the very best. And now we're asking now for your brain to just step aside and allow your heart to guide the way through this beautiful initiation with the Shalal Il Cantor. And as the singer whale gave this to me through his voice, it is about us now voicing what we need to in a powerful yet gentle and compassionate way. Breathing deeply and allowing the light of the Shel El Il to be all around us and cushioning our chakras, all our energy points. Lighting our way up to the stars, and through our feet down into Gaia, we're sending this beautiful crystalline energy. Shalalila kanaye kiranamaye kurononele cantorile il cantoro naya karanaye. And this is being delivered compassionately and gently, because they are being gentle with us for our journey. Il cantore namanaye, il cantoro, il cantor, il cananaye, il canto, il anaye. So I'm asking you to hold out both your hands. Il cantana shira skarana I karana opodon I kanana I sera shore. Joining them together in the preposition of your heart. Il cantor, il enanaye. Il cantor. And everybody take a deep breath, please, and breathing into your heart space. And take a few more deep breaths and just give your feet a wiggle on the floor. And when you're ready to come back, gently open your eyes. Let that stay within your hands. If you feel you need to keep your hands together, it's going to be very important to drink lots and lots of water today and the next days moving forward, and be with anything that comes up. So there will be things that just come out of the blue, feels like what comes out of the blue. Along with things that you think you already know about, there will be other thoughts and ideas and maybe endings that need to have the circles closed, you know, to close the loop of things that maybe haven't been fully closed before. And now the reason to do this is not to bring about more pain, it's to gently allow that to softly close so we can fill that space with light. So that we're releasing from our cellular memory so that we can hold more light there. And that is what the expanding is about, and that is how we ascend within our bodies.
Ooh, I don't even know if I can talk after that. Thank you so much for honoring us with that. That was amazing, absolutely amazing. And I can always tell when I've gone deep, my voice actually changes. It's so much lower.
It's all right. You're very, very welcome. And sometimes, you know, you are the conduit to bring about a clearing for many, many people, because, you know, that's why the power of your asking, and you know what your audience and what your family and friends and what your people need. And so when you bring that to the table, you know, it's the unity. You're doing it not just for you. It's not just for me. It is for everybody. So we can all join together in unity consciousness. And that's what this is about.
Absolutely. It's part of being vulnerable. You're not just vulnerable for yourself, you're vulnerable for other people. And it's bridging that freedom for everybody.
Yeah, and knowing that other people are also there to help you and hold you in your vulnerability, that you're not alone in that either.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Well, we are definitely running out of time. But before we go, you want to tell everybody the times of your shows for this season?
Oh, yes, please. I have one show this season, and it's Pacific time on Thursdays at 5 p.m. So in the Northern Hemisphere, Thursdays, 5 p.m. Pacific, and in Australia, that is Fridays, 12 noon Australian Eastern Daylight Time, which will soon be changing. So we will come back to you with that one. I don't know whether it goes forward or back. Whether my show will be 11 or 1.
It took us a solid week to get used to the last time it shifted, so it's going to be fun.
That's right. So it's Fridays. It's either it's 12 noon now in Australia. It's either going to be 11 or 1. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, for everybody watching, please check out Letina's show. Check out her Facebook page. Learn more about the Whales of Lemuria. Get on one of these retreats if you can. I know that I'm going to get on one of these retreats if I can. Just the next level of humanity. And for everybody watching, for everybody who sees this later, we are blessed to be able to come and give these messages. I was blessed to have Letina on my show and to receive such a pure and just powerful message that has made my entire being tingle. So thank you so much for being with us. What a wonderful gift that you've given to those who will watch and see this later. To all of the other Awake TV teachers and Awake TV audience, please join this movement, join Awake TV, join a sisterhood, a group, join your voice and your heart to this mission and this ascension of humanity and Earth at this time. We all have to stand up together and have courage together. Thank you so much for watching. Letina, thank you so much for being on. It was an absolute honor.
It's my pleasure, Chris. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for bringing through everything you do, for all you do. It's been my pleasure to be here today.
Thank you so much. So, my wonderful people, until next week, Monday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on Intentionality. Next week, we're jumping right back into step 3, embracing your power. And I'm already feeling more powerful from today. I'm sure you are as well. So I will see you next Monday. God bless.